Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Geek Chat. We are GrownAGeeks, and today we are going to be doing a spoiler review for the new movie Wicked. It recently came out. The movie was released November 22nd. So before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe. You can hit that QR code right there in the corner, and that'll take you to everywhere you can find GrownAGeeks. Let's hop right in. Joining me tonight, I have Miss Teresa, the Wicked Witch of the West End. How you doing tonight, Teresa?
Doing pretty good.
Wonderful, wonderful. Joining me as always, my man Jeffrey, JPNT17. What's going on, Jeff?
What's up, yo?
And I am Elder Geek Sam, reader of the Grimoire. So, this is a spoiler review. If you haven't seen the movie, do know that you will hear some stuff directly from the film that might get ruined for you. So, proceed with caution. I tell you, don't watch. Just notice some stuff may get spoiled. So let's start out like this. We recently got a preview review from Teresa because she got to go to an early screening. One day I'll get back on that. So we know that she thoroughly enjoyed the movie and was doing her best to contain her singing. She did a lot of lip singing in the movie, but did not audibly sing in the theater, so good for her on that. Jeff, did you have anybody singing in your theater?
Not that I heard.
Okay, wonderful. I had the theater where people were singing.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
it wasn't ridiculous. It wasn't, but like it was clearly. You would have thought that it was one of those sing along moments where like I just expected the bouncing ball to pop up on screen because it was. There were two songs in particular, and I'm pretty sure everybody knows which songs they were. Popular and Defying Gravity. Those two songs when they came. And I will say that it was when Popular was playing, the singing was tolerable. You know what I'm saying? Like you could tell they were excited to hear the song and, Ariana Grande's rendition of it. And I have to go back and make it a point to like hear some of the other versions of that song for comparison. I did find the original Miss Chenoweth. I found her version, one of her versions of the song, and I was able to find that on YouTube. And it was like a pro shot series or something like that. And so I was able, I had that comparison. But I know that there's other people who have done the role, and so there's many people who've sung the song. I want to check out some of the other ones to have a nice basis for comparison. And then I've probably watched.
There's several on Spotify, including one in Japanese.
I have to hear that. Just because that exists, I have to hear that version. I absolutely must listen to that. Also, obviously, I went in and I wanted to check out the version of Defying Gravity that Cynthia Erivo did in the movie. Of course, that was my basis. And so I went back to find the one. Help me with the name here. Idina
Menzel.
Of course, I was able to find one of her versions on YouTube and check that out. And because, and I'm going to let Jeff get into this part because we'll start with the promo around the movie before we dive into the actual parts of the movie. Because I can kind of relate to this. It's like, you would think that this, like, I forgot Gladiator was supposed to be as big of a movie because every time I turn around, it is Wicked. And of course, the algorithms are Skynet is already tracking what we do. So if you look up something for Wicked, they're going to show you everything for Wicked. And after pulling that up at YouTube, I've probably watched like at least 10 interviews. And there was one where they had all four of the ladies. They had Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo, Chenoweth,
and Idina Menzel.
And yeah, they had all four of them there. And they were literally talking about the different versions and the comparisons of the song and how one person sang it versus how the other person sang it. And everybody was like, all the ladies were crying. It was such a sweet moment, blah, 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 blah. And any like bad press that this got beforehand, they are definitely trying to like spin this like, oh, everybody on set loved one another and it was such a family. It's so great. And they really want you to think that this is just the happy, feel-good movie of the year. What you think's up with that, Jack?
I think that the studio paid a lot of money to make a movie about an IP that they had a lot of money invested into. They hired two very talented but largely problematic in certain ways people to be the stars of that movie, and they had to protect their investment. And so it's like you have to go out and you have to do a promo run.
Right.
Would it have been completely normal for Cynthia and Ariana to do their interviews separately? Of course. You see all the time where the two main stars of a movie will do their own interviews with during those press runs, and it's not. But those movies didn't have the gossip and the air of, do they like each other? Like, how do they feel
Right.
about each other? And I think
Right.
because Idina Menzel and Christian Chenoweth, they're the originators, and they've always, I think, had a very positive relationship publicly facing. I think that rightfully so, the studio felt like that was the image that the two stars needed to have.
Okay.
No matter like what's happening in the film, I think that they were trying to extend the nature of that relationship throughout all of the Wicked cast, right? It's like, yes,
Yeah.
the story is like me versus her, but really the story is not me versus her. And so, in order for us to tell the real story, we can't have like real animosity between us. And I
Yeah.
don't know how true any of it was. Maybe they did like each other, maybe they didn't. I don't personally care, but a lot of people do. And I think
Right.
that a lot of what basically, like I said this to you guys in the chat, it felt like whoever was in charge of the press run was definitely reading the comments. Now, I think that they did a lot of good things to try to nullify some of the talking points people were kind of like latching on to with how they were having both of them move with having them both do the interviews together, and they keep having these
Right.
like touchy-feely moments. They have the moment with the lady from Avenue Q where it's like we squashing Broadway beef with that one.
Right.
But then it's like we keep having like Cynthia show up and sing like Black American music, and people are just, I think, largely underwhelmed because it's like, yes, you're talented and you can sing, but like the feeling is lacking. And like that's fine when you're singing like Broadway because you're supposed to just be able to hit the notes and portray a narrative. But like
Right.
the emotion, you gotta, like, yes, you have some of that, but really it's
There's a
more about
difference
you
between
conveying the
singing and
story.
singing. Like,
Yeah. And the phrase that I keep hearing thrown around is lacking oil. I'm not going to explain what that means. If you know what it means, you know what it means.
mm,
So
mm.
I think that the promo tour was interesting. I would say it has largely been successful to this point. I think it's time to ramp it down just a smidge.
Let
All
the
right.
success of the movie
Like,
start to carry some of it. And
I
I
think
would
be
think
able
like
to ramp
or
it down.
or let's talk about some of the other people in the movie. Let's get Michelle Yeoh. Let's get more what's his name? Jeff Goldblum. Let's get Bridgerton dude out there more.
right. I definitely think it has something to do with the not even the star power, but as you pointed out, given that they are the leads, Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo are the leads in this film, as they are Glinda and Elphaba. They are wanting to show that same kind of chemistry, and oftentimes when people are looking at movies, watching movies, and you have two big names, you have two big stars on screen together, always hear people talk about the chemistry, the chemistry. And if the chemistry is genuine, you don't really have to talk about it. You can see it. It translates directly. I'm kind of looking at this, and I won't go as far as to say it's manufactured chemistry, but it definitely looks lab grown. And I think there might be some general mutual respect, and maybe over the course they got to that place. But I don't think it was something that like day one they were there, and and I think it was more probably along the time of the press run. That's when they probably did. If they had beef before that, I'm not trying to spread any
I
rumors, but
mean,
of course you read some of it.
this is
They may have had some beef before that, and then Now they got to do all this stuff together. They might have just sat down, had a conversation like, look, we got to do this. Let's just make it work. Girl, I'm, blah, 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 blah. And now it's like, you know what? I really wasn't mad at you. I really wasn't mad at you. Let's move on.
Yeah,
And now
like,
they have
to me, it comes across as like, I mean, we cool. But whatever that is that they're showing us is not like with their actual friendship. Not saying that they got beef, but like y'all,
it's like your
y'all
best friend
not
at
like
work.
that. Yeah,
it's like your best friend at work.
Like that.
Y'all ain't hanging out outside of work, but while y'all at work, that's the person I'm gonna hang out with. And it works. And I think they have decent enough chemistry for the characters they are supposed to play. And I think their characters have a similar kind of, like, initially there was probably, Ariana Grande is probably the bigger of the two stars.
Not probably, 100%.
And she has the role of Glinda. And when you watch this movie, you kind of see it's taken from Glinda's narrative, if you will, even though the movie is all about Elf. Do you get what I'm saying? Because they, it starts off with Glinda coming in. She has the first opening scene and she does the singing and whatnot. So by the time we finally I'm not going to say finally get around, but by the time they introduce Cynthia Erivo on screen as Elphaba, a good bit of the movie is beginning to unfold and be established. Now, if I'm coming on set and I'm Ariana Grande, maybe I'm like, well, I get paid a lot of money to sing. Something like that could have been where that beef comes from. And, people are going to manufacture and create any type of things. And I try not to get too much into it. I just thought it was, you brought up an interesting point with the promo. And I was just, is it really just manufactured chemistry, or are they finally cool?
Well, I think for us, it's like we've been watching promo runs for so long with like all these Marvel movies and stuff. We have now grown accustomed to seeing like real chemistry. You know what I'm saying? People who've done like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 movies together, all playing like the same character. So like we've seen what that real chemistry looks like. Yeah. We've seen what it doesn't look like them them Justice League Zack Snyder promo runs. You know what I'm saying? That when the Hello Darkness, my old friend meme came from that run. You know what I'm saying? Like they was in that run contemplating like life choices, and the Marvel ones they high five.
One bit I think the only one I saw from DC that looked like it might have been halfway decent was you see Henry Cavill and Aquaman.
Jason Momoa.
Thank you. I knew you'd have it. Thank you. Jason Momoa. They actually seem to have like a little, they might have had like a little bit of a bro bond. And
yeah, but it's like, how do you justify having a Justice League promo run and putting Superman and Aquaman in the same room together and having Ben Affleck? You can't even justify that.
He's Batman. It
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No, I mean, and I absolutely agree. It's just, again, it's one of those things that I think it's very interesting. Teresa, do you think the chemistry does it really like make a difference on film versus on the promo side? Is it the same? Is it different? Does it matter?
For this particular film, I think there's a lot of, I think it's they may have gotten along. I agree with the work friends analogy, that they probably didn't like have slumber parties, but they were cool when they did what they had to do. But, the whole press thing though, it was all so choreographed, with them doing almost every interview together. And they always showed up, Ariana in pink and Cynthia in green. It was all very, it was manufactured. I'm sure all they have to do, if nothing else, is to call up those paychecks in their memory and they'll hold hands.
So getting into the story itself, like I read an article recently where it talks about the growing trend in Hollywood. Movies are made and they're designed in like part 1 and part 2, and they don't promo that it's a part 1 and part 2. We kind of discussed that the other day, and we were talking because I was unaware initially that it was going to be a part 1 and part 2, but I was very pleased at the stopping point because, as you had mentioned before, it feels like a natural finish.
Well, that's the end of the first act in the play. That's like
Right.
where you go to intermission in the play.
Okay. Then yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's still interesting though, because how many people went in thought they were going to get the whole story in this first movie, and does that affect the reviewing process? Does that affect the way you feel about a movie if you get into the Spider-Verse on it? You know what I'm saying?
I think no matter how you market it, how you finish the first movie is what's going to determine how people feel about it being split into two stories, right? So consider even like Endgame versus Infinity War, right? I think
Yeah.
Infinity War was the first one, Endgame was the second one. That's basically like a two-part movie. Essentially,
Yeah.
it's a two-part Avengers movie.
Mm-hmm.
And was not marketed as a two-part Avengers movie, even though I know it was written as a two-part. Like
Right.
how people felt at the end of that, they were upset about, who died and all that stuff. But I don't think anybody felt like it was like, oh, they just did that story point so they could like make a second movie. Like they didn't have to do that. It's like, no, that it was a natural progression in that story. It was something that was supposed to happen and had to happen. And it was
Right.
they did a good job of telling one complete story, right?
Right.
Like a lot of times with cliffhangers, people will do cliffhangers, but they have not finished telling the first story of the movie.
Mm.
Like the two-part movie should still be two stories. It's just
Yeah.
in the first one, maybe it's your people lose. And I felt like with Spider-Verse, as much as I loved everything about that movie leading up until the end, even though Miles is captured, spoiler alert, it doesn't feel like he lost, because it feels like there should actually just be like 20 more minutes and the team is coming to get him and all this other stuff. Versus like Wicked, where it's like, yes, we know some shit is about to happen, but she's learned how to control her magic. Glinda's made her choice. Everybody like this story is the story of them
There is
two
a bow
figuring
on
out
top
what
of
they
that.
that story is done.
Yeah.
Everything that they do now moving forward is not going to be together, or is going to be working in some other space, but like whatever this little thing, that this ride that we've been on, defying gravity, and oh, I'm in the sky and when I fly off, that's it.
Yeah.
That's a satisfying ending to that story. Because
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't find anything else out about that ever again, if it ends there, that's the
Yeah, that
ending
part.
for a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we already know, like, okay, it's the Wizard of Oz. Like now we do have to get to the point where we realize, like, why are they burning her in effigy? And what happened between that and the Wizard of Oz? That's a story in and of itself, but you would not
Right.
feel cheated if you did not hear that, because of how this first one ended.
Right, because you've got a pretty good idea now.
Yeah.
From what you know of the Wizard of Oz, you've got a pretty good idea now of how it came to be, why she's known as a wicked witch, because
Mm-hmm.
they pissed her off, and now
And
she's
they spread the
mad.
propaganda, and we
I was about
saw
to say
that
they
in this
started that
movie.
rumor like she's the Wicked Witch.
Right,
Ooh,
and since
write that down.
she's gone, Madame Morrible is training Glinda now,
Glinda.
so we see how she becomes a sorceress and all this kind of stuff. So, even if you didn't get the second half, you can
Yeah.
kind of glean how you got from here to here.
Music. I know both of you are very, very fond of musicals, and I'm realizing I'm fond of musicals as well, as long as the music makes sense. There's only one song in this movie that I was like, why the hell are we singing right now? And I was happy about it. Everything else at least seemed like a justifiable song. But Prince Fiero, that song, one, did not need to be that long. And two, that was one of those songs where I'm like, why does everybody know the choreography for this? This man just came in here. He's a new character. He just got to the school. Nobody knows. He's introducing himself, but y'all already know the dance.
I mean, if somebody got on the dance floor, if you was somebody somewhere and somebody started playing Cameo Candy and the electric slide broke out, would you say, how y'all know the dance?
I
Those could
suppose
have all been cultural dances of Oz, the latest moves that all the teens were doing.
They were doing the Fiero shuffle.
Okay. See that was the dance
The
of his people.
Fiero hop,
I apologize, Fiero.
Fiero bounce.
I will.
Right.
I will. I will come back because apparently, like, you know,
The heel Fiero.
somebody knew who Fiero was. But it seemed as though he was kind of introducing himself. Like I
But
said, that was
no,
just
that was to introduce myself, like how famous people do it, to be like, I'm still a regular person. Like, I feel like that was let me introduce myself, like I'm here. But like everybody knew who he was, because as soon as Glinda found out, she did and ran her ass out to the courtyard and posted up quick.
Give me that book. Oh, didn't see you there. Stop it. Now, I have not seen the stage, but I did get through the book. I don't know what they're gonna announce in the movie, because there's, I think all of the changes from the book to the movie, I don't know if those were the same changes that existed on the stage. So I was actually able to kind of go in fully accepting that this is based on the musical, not based on the book. And in addition, it was like, even then, it doesn't seem like they could cover everything that was in the book in the music. So as I'm watching, everything was like, it was all logical progression. Everything that they changed made sense for it to be changed, because we can hit the highlights, we can hit the notes, the key moments that we need to hit without delaying. We don't need to do 4 years at Shiz. You know what I'm saying? So it's like having Elphaba end up attending Shiz on accident.
Right.
That makes perfect sense. And it fits in with the story that's being told. Now we can go ahead and get all our main players where they need to be, and we can save 3 years. With the story from Madame Morrible in the book, it makes sense, because she recognized, like, hey, you, and you, I need you three to do something. And here we go. It hit all the same notes, so it gave you the same feeling without having to do the exact same. And I think that's an excellent explanation of what you would want in a adaptation. Having said that, how close and how accurate to the musical was it?
Now, I'm going to be honest. The musical came out 21 years ago. I don't remember.
No, and okay. Yeah.
And I keep saying, actually, a friend of mine put a video on TikTok earlier saying that there is the musical is on YouTube. So I need to go and watch that so I can see how faithful the movie was to the musical. I know the general story is the same. It kind of has to be for you to bring the songs over from the musical. But I mean,
Right.
To perfectly honest, I have no idea. It was a long time ago. I don't remember what happened last week. I damn sure don't remember 21 years ago.
Okay. I wasn't even aware that I wasn't even aware that the play was that old. But in fairness, I will say, as politely as I can, that explains when I see Idina Menzel, when I see Kristen Chenoweth in these interviews versus when I saw them. I was like,
Yeah.
So that makes a little bit of sense. And that's probably why, even though I'd never seen the play, I knew the song popped. Because
You know why you know the song popular? Because when we was growing up and Wicked would come, well, not when we was growing up, but when they would have the commercials on for like what's coming to the Fox,
Wicked at the
when they would
Fox.
show
Yep.
Wicked, it would always be popular.
Yeah.
That was the
Gotcha.
song that they would be like playing in the background. Can I just say this though?
Sure.
It's like, I think that it don't really matter because the movie ended up being so good. Like, I think like the question of like faithfulness to adaptation, like they didn't change anything about the story that was like so like apprehensible that you don't understand how it's going to play out in the second part of the movie.
Yeah.
I think what they did a great job of was not trying to try so hard to change a bunch of stuff from the play, but really take the songs and take the world and expand it from just like on a stage
Where
where
you have that
Oz
limitation.
is like such a vast and like fantastic realm, because we first meet Oz really, most of us probably, through the Wizard of Oz movie. And it's making me rethink about that. And like when I'm thinking about this Wicked, it's like things are like brighter and like more colorful and like vibrant. It does a lot of heavy lifting, but there's only so much you can do like on a stage.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it feels very wooden And I remember like I'm remembering it as feeling like pretty dark. But what we want to do is adapt the visual. And I think that they did a great job of focusing on adapting the showing how big and grandiose everything about this world really is, how fantastic everything about this world really is, and allowing the story and the songs, the things that everybody has fallen in love with, because that's how you know this is a good story and this has good, because people will go see Wicked when it comes to town and it's not about who's starring in it and it's not about who's going to be there. It's just about seeing this story and hearing these songs. I'm like, yes, you want to like you might do some comparisons if you've seen multiple people do it, but really it's just about experiencing this story because it is a really, really well crafted, well written story, in my opinion.
Yeah. This movie actually really shows you like how grand this world is. And it is ultimately because of the visuals.
Yeah.
Everything looks real. It looks like stuff you could go and touch. And when you have that, there's still something that's different about seeing something live action, even if it's CGI, versus seeing something animated. And I think that's probably what really carries the goodness of this movie up. Like that's what takes it over. That's honestly what makes it go from being a good movie to a great, because the story itself is a good story. It is an interesting, entertaining tale that is well crafted and just well written. The books, apparently the musical, and in my opinion, obviously this movie. But having that added element of the visuals to make sure that you are like awed at what you see, that you are literally standing there in awe of the city of Oz. You know what I'm saying? Like hell, just seeing the wizard, you know what I'm saying? Like when they did the original Wizard of Oz and they had like, you know, Dorothy walk out of the sepia into the color, that was the visual that blew their mind in the what 40s or whatever, you know. And then in the Wiz, it was seeing the Scarecrow move the way he did, having the 10, you know, like those characters. It was the visuals that just elevated that story. So I think it's just tradition for the Wizard of Oz or any story related to the Wizard of Oz it has to just continue to elevate. And I think Wicked did a fantastic job, and it is
absolutely fantastic.
Those visuals. And thank you for telling me that it looked great, because I made sure to see it on laser AMC, like get one of the good screens. I almost saw it in 3D, but I was like, I don't want to do too much.
Oh no, I'm going to see it in 3D. I've seen it twice. I'm going to see.
I would go back for a 3D.
I just want to go IMAX.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I just got what I could get when I saw it, because it was like the Saturday it came out, and me and my wife just happened to have like a kid-free day, so it was just went to see it random. I can't
even imagine with IMAX though, because to me to me, really beautiful is an understatement.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go from, because you come from a stage play, and like you said, there are limitations because you have to do one scene at a time. And so in the stage play, we got a dorm room, and, you know, we got a classroom, and we got the, you know, going in to see the wizard, and we got the big head with the, you know, moving parts and stuff. But in the movie, we got Shiz, the entire campus of Shiz. And I mean, I want to go to Shiz, you know? It was everything. It was just beautiful. It was overwhelmingly beautiful to me. Even the first little, what is it, Munchkin Land or wherever it is that they start off.
Yeah, was it the 17 million, some ridiculous number of tulips.
Yeah, that they actually planted because, you know, they didn't want to CGI or whatever. Or the city where you start off and where Glinda floats in, or in Emerald City. They were just such complete visual. You know, I'm a bit of a wardrobe nerd as well, you know, because I'm a clothes person. So all of that, I'm sitting there and I'm in awe of, because everybody's in something different, but it all fits together. You can tell, you know, the people who work in the beauty salon as opposed to the patrons of the salon. You could tell the rich people, and all of this you can get from the wardrobe, and just everything is just so complete. And I mean, it was awe inspiring. It really was. I was completely immersed, and I mean, I think they just did a great job with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say about the clothes, like I think that they did a great job conveying, even though like at Shiz people are supposed to wear uniforms, obviously except for the two main characters.
Right,
That's like a callback to the stage play. Like they still did a good job of showcasing all of the other characters' personality by the small tweaks to their uniforms that they
right,
made. Like Bo and Yang's glasses were just like, I know this dude's a douche. Like
right.
he like to put those things on your face because you can Google what people were saying it looked like. I won't say it. It's the family program, but there was some very funny things that people said that his glasses looked like. Even Cynthia Erivo's glasses kind of just being like simple, and somebody uncovered. I think they were like some $20 glasses, some
Zelu.
online, yeah. And the tailoring, I think, like even with I think the thing about this story is about how like she's not a witch, she's just a woman who has been like mistreated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times when I've seen the tailoring on like the witch, it's like you just throw some black or whatever on her. She just needs to look like frumpy, not frumpy, but like not as well put together. But I feel like in this movie, she just didn't wear like pink, and she wasn't like gaudy, but like her clothes fit her right. Like she was very professional and well like put together. It wasn't like a I'm a sad sack and I have to like look it compared to this other person.
Yeah.
And I
Right,
think they did a very good job of like, even though she has this like green skin that already otherizes her every other way, she was not otherized. And that was like the point. And I think even just in something as subtle as like, you think she doesn't care about her appearance because she does not make herself up to look the way you think people should. But she's got a head full of micro braids, a full set of nails, like she's not like busted. She's just not doing what you think she should do. And I think even the way you tell the story through wardrobe, the way you tell the story through lighting, backdrops, all these things that we've been talking, because we haven't even talked about like the acting, the plot, none of that yet. Everything we've talked about has just been like the world that
Around the
they've
movie.
created
Yeah.
because that was even the opening shot of like showing like how grandiose everything is. Everything that they did in this movie was about first we established the world that we're in. When we pull up the shiz, the first thing we're gonna do is show you how big and how pink, and when you have the energy just off shot one of like, okay, that's what this space is. I know what I'm walking into to it. You know what I mean? We're hiding this person's face. All right, we know it's gonna be a reveal. Now we done seen all in the commercial. We know it's Cynthia Erivo with a green face, but still we can set it up in the movie to where we're all gonna be shocked like everybody else is shocked. But I think just like I think that if they did not take the painstaking attention to detail that they did in this movie, they would not have succeeded, and it would have been very, very bad. And I applaud them because this was a difficult task. Like anytime you take on any IP that has a rabid fan base, but especially when the fan base is like white women and like gay dudes, like you gotta get that shit right. And I think that as much shit as I've been talking about Cynthia Erivo in the chat, I couldn't be mad. I had to purposely fold my arms to remind myself how I really feel about this lady.
Getting sucked up into the grandness.
Yeah.
now I
So
appreciate though, because you mentioned, the gaudiness and the ultra pinkness of Glinda and Glinda's wardrobe, as opposed to Elphaba always in her black. I appreciate the fact though, because the story, if you've read the book, the story is about Elphaba.
right.
Glinda is a character in that story. Now, for the stage play, they tweaked it to where
Mhm.
it's about Elphaba and Glinda. But I appreciate the fact that for the movie, whereas everything that Glinda is in, she's running around looking like a big poppy exploded, they did not minimize the details of Elphaba's wardrobe.
Yeah.
Because whereas Glinda is the big pink and all the ruffles and she looks like she's got petals and everything, Elphaba has on a black suit, but it's a very well tailored black
Mm-hmm.
suit. There are very intricate details. There are, ruffles and
Puff shoulder sleeves,
right. Her
tailored
wardrobe is
vests. Yeah.
not simple by any stretch of the imagination. It's
Was that
very
a velvet
detailed
cloak she had?
and it
Like,
tells
go
a
ahead, girl.
story as well.
Yeah. I mean, like the details in her outfits, they were as uniquely intricate in black
Right, exactly.
and in shades of black. And she had pinstripe, and I was like, yo, that pinstripe suit was all right. I see you. Like, and they really had like a couple different times, like and when they actually did the song Popular, and she had her like, okay, you're wearing like the big long braid, like, here, girl, let your hair down, and you know what I'm saying, work on the flip. And then like we see in the next, and even one of the small little things, like we see her begin to embrace herself after they have the little dance moment and they're friends, and Elphaba finally feels accepted because she's no longer being otherized by her classmates. You can see her wardrobe starts to take on lighter shades, and she's not just in the weird dark black. It goes from the black to the gray to the pinstripe until eventually when she has when she's rescuing the lion cub, she's actually got on uniform elements, because at this point she is now feeling like a member of this school, and she's not having to, like, she's sitting with her friends and she's not having to be standoffish and by herself. And that was one of the little things that, like, while I'm watching, I was like, oh, look, she got on the uniform now, and there was no longer the need to be so defined and standoffish because she has friends. And so then, of course, like, everybody was happy for her and cheering for her when she got her letter from the wizard and she was getting on the train. They like saw her off, and it was like not what you would have expected when she first shows up. So watching her journey, and again, another visual element, it's just everything you see in the movie. Even if you don't know this story, this movie will just like suck you in because of the way everything is done. And I mean, that's really what you want a movie to do. You want to be engrossed and you want to be enveloped. And that's the point. You want that full escapism. And I promise you will be right there in Oz. I don't know who Cynthia Erivo is. I'm not familiar with her body of work. When I was talking to my mom about it, because like, my mom went to go see, and like everybody in my family has seen it, which is surprising because I didn't think everybody was going to be interested in it like that. So that's what we were all talking about. Like, oh, you saw it? Yeah, you saw it? Yeah. So we all had a great time talking about the movie. And I didn't know who Cynthia Erivo was. And my mom was like, oh, yeah, she's a lady from Harriet. And I was like, oh, yeah, that strong ass face. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that, okay. Now, I'm looking at this movie and I'm like, might need to go back and see what else she's done. Because I really feel like she did an excellent job. She pulled her weight and she carried everything that needed to be carried. We always get a enjoyable little performance from Jeff Goldblum, the world's uncle. You know what I'm saying? He's everybody's rich uncle, and he's always just fun, like, hey, just, he's been the same guy in everything for some years now, but we like that guy, so it's cool. And yeah, of course Jeff Goldblum's the wizard. Of course he's the wizard. Like, who else would he be?
Right.
Of course he's the wizard. Ariana Grande. I don't know how I feel about that character specifically, because I don't feel like that's not the way I had her in my head from the book, but it's a very stark contrast to who Elphaba is. And so I think it works there because
That's definitely because you haven't seen the musical.
Right. Well, I mean, like what I've seen from Kristen Chenoweth, like, yeah, she seems to have that same like pop you, like yeah. So I mean, like the same. But again, like I said, that's not the character I vision from the book. There are some elements of what's in the book that do come through. Like, okay, she's obviously like, she's already like upper society, but she thinks she's higher than she actually is, and she always wants to come off as being like, well, I'm the best one here at least, and having her kind of have her humanizing elements as she becomes friends with Elphaba. And Elphaba, of course, realizing like, maybe I don't even know what her growth story was, but
Glinda?
we're not going to really get that from Glinda until the second movie, because like just that little moment she had at the beginning where she's like, well, weren't you friends with the witch? Yes. Well, I knew her. I've met her. I know who she is. Like, watching her do that little backpedal, of course, I'm kind of chuckling to myself because I'm like, nah, that was your homie back in the day. Then, of course, they show and we get that. She's obviously walking off with Madame Morrible, so we'll probably get more of that part two. But in this movie, I felt like Ariana Grande was just a comedy. She was just comic relief. Like her character was just ditzy and clueless, and it felt like watching the Nickelodeon Cat in Pink. And Sam and Cat was a funny show when it was on, and it was pretty much the same character, and that's who I saw up on the screen. And having seen her on Saturday Night Live, it's just like I know she can do a little bit more than that. All right.
I didn't know.
Well, hold on. Okay, because I see like you about to do the little.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I think Teresa should go, and then I'll go.
Okay.
On acting? I mean, what are we saying? I think it was very well acted. Yes, Ariana Grande was basically doing Cat, but it was appropriate. It was perfect for the role.
Yeah, like I said, it was the opposite. The opposite of the Elphaba character. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
Now, maybe I didn't have a problem with that because I think I just Elphaba is my girl.
Yeah, it's her movie. Like
from the book. From the book, it's about Elphaba. So, right. With Ariana coming in and being the comic relief and doing some hair flipping and stuff, I didn't have a problem with that. With Cynthia Erivo playing Elphaba a little bit more seriously and more like you get more of a comprehensive picture of a character with her, I didn't have a problem with that. I don't want us to forget, though, some of the other great portrayals. I mean, of course, we have Jeff Goldblum, and we have agreed that Jeff Goldblum was Jeff Goldbluming. Michelle Yeoh did a great job, but I think Jonathan Bailey, while you're having trouble with them doing the Fiyero Shuffle in the library, I just think he did a great job. I think he was so convincingly charming and rakish. I just think he did a really good job. And then in those moments further into the story, if you've read the book, kind of how the relationship between the characters goes there. Right. We get a little bit more serious of a character from him, and that was just so good too. I think that I can't say stole the show because it's still the Elphaba and Glinda show, but right. And it was a very similar character to the one he plays on Bridgerton. So, but still, I think he did a great job, a really good showing, in this movie and making his character memorable. So, I just don't want us to completely focus on Ariana and Cynthia when there were some other good portrayals in there. And even the little Mean Girls actors, they did a good job with their roles.
I mean, Shin, Bronwyn James, and Bowen Yang as the flunkies, thing one, thing two. It was entertaining every time they were on screen. Mm-hmm. As the entourage, and like I said, that added to the element of Ariana Grande, of Glinda's, because I won't put that added to the humor that you got from Glinda, having her entourage. And without the right support of her entourage, it definitely would have missed the mark. Nessa Rose, I want to see more of her in the next movie. I want to see that develop. I was not aware that the actress who played Nessa Rose, she's actually she's in a wheelchair in real life, and young
Nessa Rose is as well.
Yeah, and they crafted that wheelchair for the movie, of course, because it needed to be an Ozian wheelchair. But like she's actually in a wheelchair, and so like that's one of those like casting the right person for the role kind of thing. Like
Right.
don't have somebody that put the right person in the role, but keep it simple. And that's good job, John.
And I think we should also remember the portrayals. As I mentioned, young Nessa Rose is also she's in a wheelchair as well, but also young Elphaba was fantastic as well.
Yeah. The children versions they were adorable. So Jeff,
Yes, Jeff.
what are your thoughts on the acting?
I thought the acting was phenomenal. I think as much as I wanted to hate on Cynthia, I have nothing bad to say about it. The thing that I enjoyed the most about the way she portrayed the character was that the way it's written is, I think people will look at her and expect anger, and they read everything she does as probably angrier than it actually like is, just because she's green. Cynthia Erivo did a good job of like having Elphaba just still remain just to be a person that's like, I'm showing the appropriate emotion considering like what is happening around me right now.
Right.
But you guys are like not receiving it but that's also something that I've had to deal with my whole life. So I just pick and choose when I want to like deal with it. And I think even just like the subtlety in like tone of how when she goes through her like little list of like, yes, I'm green, I've always been green, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not like, yes, I'm green. And
that's a defense mechanism that she kind of laughs off now. Okay,
right.
Let's just get it out the way. Yes, I'm green. Da 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 da.
Right.
Okay. Can we move on now?
But I think she's so used to a certain response that when Prince Vivio kind of is like, okay, I didn't ask none of that, but whatever.
Right.
She's taken aback.
Right.
But
it was a very subtle fake, like
yeah. So I think like that subtlety of I think the subtleties of the character. Of course, she can sing. Like, she's Broadway royalty, like all that. We all knew she was going. Okay, she went in the studio. She did it in the studio. She could have did it 50 million times, no matter what. If they had to piece a different O from every single time she did it together to get the perfect one, that's what they was going to do. So I'm not as hung up on that. I'm more hung up on how does she look delivering these songs on camera. And I think, she did a good job of emoting, which is hard if, I think she was like really singing, but like she wasn't like singing how she was singing in the studio to get them songs.
Right.
Your comments on Ariana's performance were interesting to me though, because I really what she did. And I think that the thing that I liked the most about her was like, I know what you're saying about her being Cat, but I think that like there are moments where you can tell she's doing it as like the character is doing that as a facade. And she knows she's not really dumb.
Mm-hmm.
She knows what's going on, but she's using this tone to like have people think a certain thing about her so that she can manipulate and move in the shadows how she wants to move. And the thing about her performance that I think did the most, her face act, like her facial reactions when things are going on. The main specific moment of this is when it's like when she comes out to the courtyard and meets Prince Firio, or whatever his name is, for the first time. And then Fiero. I don't be knowing names. I apologize.
That's good.
Yeah, like the
Fiero. Then when Cynthia comes out, not Cynthia, Elphaba comes out,
right?
And it's like the moment where Elphaba realizes that they know she's like, how y'all know each other? He just got here. I'm supposed to be like what the like. She does some like face thing and then switches up and then gets right back in there to manipulating again. And I think that like there were so many times where she had like a little line or this or that where it's like, this is not being like people like, she's not being stupid when she does this. This is like death by 1,000 cuts. Like she's like slowly trying to like deflate tension by random incendiary comments sometimes. And I think she did a good job of like showing, I don't know, just like that there's layers to the character that have yet to be uncovered. And
I think that kind of aligns where I said we'll get more from her in the next one. I'm
yeah,
not
but
disagreeing, but I can absolutely agree that there are.
I'll say this: next time, if you watch it again,
I may
just
not have
like,
given enough credit to her facial expressions.
yeah,
As you're
just
pointing them out, okay, I do remember them because they were all elements of the story. And you could, like you said, when you saw the meeting, like the way she kind of looked back, but then
yeah,
like fixed her head and put the smile back on
yeah,
and kept it moving. But obviously, she knew that there was something there. So she was like, okay, well, let me just get right back in
yeah,
here because no, we're not going to do that because I've already got this figured out. I'm
yeah.
10 steps ahead. And you know, I get that part. And not what I say the character Cat, not in the context of her being dumb. They have her playing airheaded. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that was how
do you
she was.
do you
And of
think
course it
that
was
that
just
is a function of like the times in which the books and the movie were done? Because I think that like what you're saying does make sense if you're reading a book written in like what 1993,
but
The
yeah, I
book
mean,
came out in like 93 or something like that.
right? Okay, so we're
Yeah.
talking pre Mean Girls, pre a lot of like kind of like teen college age girl driven
right.
media where we really have not done a lot of exploring about how women and girls within their social groups actually like exercise
Oh no,
power
like
through personality traits. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
so
and
this is like
I
some
mean,
random white man writing a book. He's gonna go with like a more classic pompousness that might read like a old Hollywood Grace Kelly type thing. But once you start adapting that and people sit around and they're like, yeah, but like that's not really how like kind of college girls like interact with each other, even though like the rich ones who think that they're better than you are perky about it. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. And I mean, and honestly, like you said, it is. I can see the difference in the way the character is written in the book because of the time versus a post Mean Girl Amy Poehler. You know, like having more insight to a character and making that character better written. Now we have when you take Wednesday on Netflix and you have those two characters, which you know, not a complete fair comparison, but a very similar imagery, where you have the Wednesday character who is dark and moody and you know what I'm saying always brooding and whatnot, but really has a lot more going on than she lets off, but she's so accustomed to like being on guard. Then you have the other young lady who was like part werewolf or whatever, and she's just like all bubbles and rainbows and sparkle. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a very similar yin yang kind of dynamic. In this case, the cat version that Galinda is portraying is in fact still a yin yang, and it is a polar opposite to what Elphaba is doing. And it's not until after they have their moment of dancing and you know doing the little weird peacock stuff and they kind of come together as like you know what, let me stop, what I did was wrong and mean, and you know what, you didn't deserve that, and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, you know, you're not a bad person, like I just found out what you did for me and I here I am, you know what, so let me fix this as best I can. And after that you see that she doesn't seem as ditzy, you know what I'm saying, like almost like both of them were able to then let their guards down.
I think it is like Teresa's been saying, this is Elphaba's story.
Right.
And we are seeing more because she's letting Elphaba in. So if this is Elphaba's story and we're technically following her, we can only see as much of Galinda as Galinda allowed Elphaba to see. But once, they have the kind of, oh, you got my sister a date to the dance. I'll talk to my teacher. I got you in the program. You saved me from social suicide. Like we see that moment of Galinda choosing to step into Elphaba's world when, Furio's like, she doesn't care what anybody thinks. And Galinda's like, does. She cares what everybody. That's the moment where
Probably
she
all she thinks
steps.
about.
Yeah. It's like, that's the moment where she steps into the movie with us. She's not like this outside antagonistic force. Now she's
And
like somebody
you
we're
know what?
actually dealing with.
It makes perfect sense because, like I said, you see as their relationship grows, she does even come across as being less and less ditzy. It's almost like the way Elphaba has her guard up with, yes, I'm green. Yes, I've always been green. No, I'm not CC. You know what I'm saying? Like, she doesn't have to do the hair flip as much. You know what I'm saying? She doesn't have to give that presentation the same way, to the point where when they go to meet the wizard, she's just standing right there. Granted, it's still like she's a guest. She's the +1. It's not her invitation. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So she is still like having to stay in that role of being a +1, but she's no longer having to be the dumb blonde character because it's not who she is.
Right.
And that we got to see a little bit more growth from that side of it. And I like that portrayal that Ariana Grande did, but that was like towards the end of the movie. So I just felt like it was more movie of her being this and it was because I know she could do better. So that's why I had, like, I'm not gonna say an issue with that, but it was, and I think it was more the writing because she nailed that character.
Yeah.
She nailed the character, and it was beautifully hilarious for her to do that. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, it's almost like when you see someone that actually can act really well, do something that looks tight. You know what I'm saying? Because like the fact that I can even reference Cat.
Here's the thing. Ariana, like, I'm sure maybe Teresa, you've seen this. Tweets have resurfaced about Ariana Grande been wanting to play this role since she was like a little girl.
Right, yes.
And based on the Kristen Chenoweth character. So much like how we talked about Rebel Ridge was an audition to be Green Lantern, Cat was an audition for for Glinda. Like,
good point.
From how they introduce her on iCarly, they always putting her next to somebody like mean, who's like mean to her, and she kind of like has to just bounce off of that energy, whether it was the girl who played Sam, whether it was a mean girl on Victoria. Like she was able to go into the studio and just be like, you want to see me audition for Glinda? Here, season 1 through whatever of Victorious, season 1 through whatever of Sam and Cat. Also, hear all my platinum selling albums. Here's me singing like wicked songs on Jimmy Fallon. Like, here's everything like, you need. Like, if
here's
you're
the
not
number of times I've
me,
been on Saturday Night Live.
Right,
I can do comedy.
I've done Broadway. I was in the original cast of I think it was called like 13 or something like that. Like, if you're not gonna give me this role, it's not gonna because I can't do it, because I've shown that I can do it over and over and over again.
Right, I've been doing it.
Okay.
But it might have just been in some like on a retroactive thing. Because I mean, this Wicked movie has been like in talks for years and years and years and years and years and years. So
I mean, just finding out that we're talking about a play that's 20 years old, I can easily imagine it's been like, again, I didn't know the play was 20 years old. Just hearing that today, I'm like, for real? Wow. And then, of course, what I do, I actually kind of looking up, that was on YouTube. It says right there, 18.
Yeah.
Wow. And yeah, I think, like Teresa said, all of the supporting cast, this was a very well casted movie, and that acting supports the casting decision. Because if you tell me Michelle Yeoh is in a movie, I'm like, she's gonna kill whatever role you gave her in this movie. Madame Marvel might be that chick. Hold on now. Because
whether it's her specialty.
Right. You know, Jeff Goldblum back there looking lost, but you know what I'm saying? Again, he the wizard. He ain't got to do nothing. He got the people in place to do stuff. And if you got Michelle Yeoh right there, why would you bother? Let Michelle Yeoh be Michelle. You ain't got to do nothing. You've already Jeff Goldblumed up on the stage.
He ain't got no powers anyway. What are you going to do?
Like I said, you would have already Jeff Goldblumed up there on the stage behind the curtain and on the little town of your future vision.
His superpower was audacity.
Right.
Yeah. Nah, his superpower was that he's slinging that thing around town.
That little green bottle. Little green bottle has some blue pills in it or something. I cannot think of something in this movie that I didn't like. Even Fiero's long, weird-ass song was entertaining. It was good. The library was spinning around and everybody was like, they was excited to do whatever it was. Like, he wanted to go to the club they was like, we can't do that. He was like, come dance with me. Let me show you how fun this is. And then everybody was like, yo, we going to the club. You coming? So it was effective. He changed the hearts and minds of the people there. And he got them to like, live a little. And it's cool. He a prince. He used to do what he wanted. Just because he had a school, now he ain't gonna do that. That's not how that works for him. Okay, cool. It was still a weird ass song, and everybody back knew all the choreography. It's a musical, so you have to accept. But that was the only one. Every other song, like I get it. I like that. Yeah, that's when you sing right there. Like in a movie, that's when you sing. So I was okay with all the other songs. Jeff, I remember you said that you were going to have. There was something about one of the songs. Was it Defying Gravity? You was going to be checking for that.
Maybe
Defying Gravity or Popular.
I mean, no. I mean, I don't. I like musicals, but I don't listen to musical music outside of the movie. So it's not like I haven't listened to the Wicked soundtrack since like ever. Like I heard the songs like when I saw the play and I enjoyed it enough then. I mean, I remember Defying Gravity being a major moment. It's probably my favorite song from the play. Just because like The Wizard and I just feels weird, and especially with Cynthia, it's like I don't want to listen to you sing about yearning to be with this white. Like it's cool, it's a cool song, but I think Defying Gravity is better, and it's more indicative of like what the I guess underline is supposed to be. So,
but it was all the little nods that were in The Wizard and that get that included.
No, it's a great song for sure. I mean, I think for me the biggest thing that it wasn't a negative, but I think just like obviously like when the timing of when this movie has come out and then it opening up with just like a giant statue of a black woman. She's not black, but she is black, being like burned in effigy and like posters of her face being burned. And I was just like, oh man. I just kept being like, yeah, it renewed my desire to like really start diving into like media studies and like talking to people about what stuff means, because like Wicked the play has been out for 20 years and this is what the play has always been about, and like now you need these specific visuals to be like, yeah, this is what the play has always been about. And like just like white women online just being like, oh man, I get it now. It's like, cool. About 2 weeks too late, but cool. I'm glad you get it now. And I mean, but I think even with that, it's like that's not something bad. It's like you're supposed to feel something seeing those things happen, seeing everybody be happy that this character lost or whatever. You know, you're supposed to feel like uneasiness about it. You know what I mean? And I think that the movie still did a great job of like guiding you through everything that you're supposed to feel to understand really what. But I also say that like assuming everybody got what was going on, just like I assumed people understood what The Boys was about, and then season 3 people were like, wait, Homelander's a bad guy? And I'm like, oh. So to me, that's like, wait, Glinda betrayed? Yes. Until we find out more information about what happened and what she's doing and all that, like at this point, yeah. She said, I'm staying here with them people. You better go fly off in the forest and get them animals together yourself.
Now, I will say, when you talked about the subtlety in the facial expression, you immediately see at the beginning when she comes in on her bubble and she's talking, like looking around, she has all of those facial expressions where she is clearly pained by what she's seeing, but she's putting on the front like, yeah, hey, continue celebrating the death of my friend. You people suck.
She was like,
people suck. I hate you all.
They were like, no one scores the Wicked. She's just like, damn, for real.
Right. So
that's the musical version of FTB. It's a family show, so I won't.
So
that would be funny as hell in real life if it was like somebody was like really actually like a terrible person, and then right at their funeral They were about to sing a hymn, and somebody was just like, "No one scorns the wicked."
Man, that is like some next level hate right there. Okay. Final thoughts. Think were there any other topics anyone wanted to cover specific to the movie?
I'm good.
Teresa, any final anything else you want to cover?
I don't think so. I will say though, because I'm in a bunch of different groups. I'm on Facebook, and a lot of them are Black women groups, and so I'm in a couple of Black women read groups. And actually, I can't remember if it was one of the Black women read groups or a Black women nerd group. But anyway, in one of them, somebody said, and I was just so taken aback. She said, I don't know if she prefaced it with unpopular opinion or what, but she said that she just had to get it off her chest or whatever, that Elphaba was a B word from, the beginning of the end, and she was just so this and that about Elphaba. And I was sitting there like, oh.
Tell me you didn't read the book without telling me you didn't read the book.
But she did. I think she did.
Nah.
I don't know. Maybe she was just talking about the movie. But I was just
strictly
taken aback. I was struck because Elphaba is my girl. And I think I just relate to her because, well, she's green. I'm not green, but, there are some things that in my younger years made me self-conscious and maybe a little bit more introverted than I would have been otherwise. So that's one of the reasons I love the book so much, is that I could just relate to Elphaba outside of the green part. And so for somebody to just come out and say that Elphaba was a bee and she overreacted to everything, and I was like, and I'm also the person who will say, okay, I appreciate your opinion. I accept that is the way that you interpreted it. I won't be talking to you anymore because I don't agree. But I'm that person. But that really that kind of just struck me, kind of knocked me off my feet or whatever for a minute, because I can't. She wasn't a bee to me. She had all these challenges that she had to overcome. So I just thought it was interesting that somebody had that point of view after seeing the same movie that I saw. So I'll leave you with that.
That is an interesting take. I like the opportunity to try to see it from a different perspective. I think the biggest takeaway for me, just in general, whether it be the book, the movie, I will eventually see the play. It's that feeling of otherism. And anytime you find yourself in a situation where you are the other and you have been the other, you begin to have a pattern of being the other. You do act a certain, because the other is treated otherly. And you can apply that to any aspect of otherness. I'm going to just run that word into the ground. But in this case, because Elphaba was green, I genuinely believe that in the context of the book, she was the only person who was green. In the play, she was the only person there is nobody else that can relate to what she experiences being green. And so other people will try to say, well, you should be this. Well, just be like this. They don't know what it's like to be green.
Kermit told y'all it wasn't easy being green.
Facts.
And so it's like, if somebody is just now saying like, oh, wow, I never thought about it like that.
I think even going with what the woman in Teresa's group was saying too, though, is like, I don't want to say victim blaming, because I don't necessarily want to paint that and the metaphor as like dealing with an affliction, but it's like, I think there are people who look at situations like that, and if you're like an extroverted question asker, you're going to be like, well, what's the problem? Of course, if you turn around and you saw a green person, you're going to be shocked. And you're going to say something. And it's like, well, everybody won't say something, but some people will. She's had this her entire life. You're probably not the first person to say this. It's kind of like how my philosophy on like seeing celebrity. Yeah, it is my first time seeing them, but this is probably their 50th time being seen. Everybody probably makes especially if you're just known for like one thing. So people coming up to you, that person saying the same thing all the time, all day. As much as I want to make this whatever joke, but yeah, I think people will interpret both of these, like even how me and you interpreted Glinda a little bit differently. People might interpret Elphaba differently and see her as being more standoffish, the same way a lot of Black women and Black people in general in corporate America kind of get that rap when we're not like jumping into all the conversations or being all forthright with everything that goes on in our personal life to the first stranger who we meet at our job. I think people interpret it how they handle it themselves, and they don't have the space to be like, this person didn't handle it the way that I handled it, but that doesn't mean they're wrong.
Right.
They just handled it differently than I handled it.
And to that point, the very first thing that comes to mind is you can be a Magneto or you can be an Xavier. Both want to see what's best for mutants. They go about it different ways. There's only one Elphaba.
Is wrong.
But that's where you get an opinion, like the person in Teresa's group. That's where you get. But the person in that group, they would look at it and be like, he should have been like a Charles. She definitely comes across with Magneto energy because she's had those hardships. She's had rocks thrown at her. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's had the kids tease her for being green and then get in trouble when she retaliates. And the only one that got in trouble. Never mind that they was throwing rocks at me. It was when I threw a rock that it was a problem. So she's learned to internalize being defensive is a problem. So now I'm going to just be short, curt. I ain't got time. We not finna discuss. Look, I'm green. I'm not seasick. Can we move this along? You know what I'm saying? And you can't look at her and say that she's a B because of that. Because you don't know how she was getting in trouble for having rocks thrown at her. Ultimately, that's how she's going to internalize that. So don't get mad that she wasn't acting like Charles, but she was acting like Magneto. Don't put that on. If you get the full story, and that's why I'm like, nah, she didn't read that. I'm gonna call her out. Ain't no way in hell she read that book, and that was your takeaway?
Right. That's what you came away with? Okay.
She just didn't get her ass beat enough? Okay. I got a movie I want you to watch. Let me stop.
Elphaba took her man.
You know what? She was probably shipping Glinda, so that's probably and to that point, I was looking at Bach and I'm like, how is this gonna go? Because I'm looking at you with a side eye right now, like
who?
Bach, the one that took Nessa to the dance.
The Munchkin Lander.
That was something else that I thought was very interesting. That the Munchkin was just a race.
Right.
It had nothing to do with height.
I mean, he was a little bit shorter than Fierro. He stood up on the book
to be as tall as Fierro.
Right.
But
they weren't dwarves.
Right.
They were just smaller people. Well, they were just smaller, but still proportionate in the same way we are people.
Right.
So it was like being Asian as opposed to, like.
Yeah, like I said, ultimately it just came across as it was just a race.
From a different place where that race of people it's on average is,
Right. They have these characteristics are more frequent and more common. Mm-hmm. And so, and another thing, and I mean, it's 2025. I made this comment to my wife and she was like, you can't make a movie today and not. But I was just like really happy with how Oz looked. I'll just say that, like looking around at all of the people in Oz, and it was like, that's how you make the one green person stand out being green. Because wow, look, I would feel comfortable being in Oz. You know what I'm saying? I could probably walk around in Oz. I'd be okay. I'm okay with that. I want to go visit Oz, and I think that was just a lovely thing because it didn't feel, it just made everything feel very organic, and it made the green just stand out that much more.
Right.
Because you couldn't take certain elements of Elphaba to say it's this or that. It's green is what was the focal point. So I really liked and appreciated that because that was one of the things, like, again, in the book, everything is just a description. And there were certain things that did not get described. When they talk about Elphaba, all they talk about is she's green. That is the only description. So in a sense, it doesn't matter who's playing her because she's green.
Right.
And so that's one of the elements that really comes across. So in terms of the casting, you pick whoever you pick to be this person, and you pick who you pick to be that person. And of course, there's certain things that have to kind of like line up and match up to make that the same. But her greenness is still what set her apart. And that was just something in the movie that I think for some people might be subconscious, but for other people, it was something that like was highly visible and noticeable. And it's one of the things I like. But that is an entire review of Wicked in theaters now. Check your local list. Got a thumbs up there. I'm definitely going to give it 2 thumbs up. I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. And you know what? If all musicals are going that way, then hey, I'm going to go check out all the musicals.
A musical convert.
If they all gonna be like that, I'm there, because that was such a good
They
story.
won't all be like that.
No, they won't.
I know. Yeah, it's like I know.
Go ahead and let you. just like in comic book movies, there will be some disappointments.
Yeah, I'm certain there'll be some songs. I'm like, who? Why? No, that was not the song for you to sing. No, I'm sure that type of stuff happens. Nonetheless, we appreciate you watching this. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the QR code there so that you can follow us everywhere you see GrownAGeeks. We hope you've enjoyed this. Leave your comments and let us know what was your favorite part of the movie. Did you have a favorite character? What were your feelings on the acting? What songs did you enjoy the most? Be sure to let us know. Until we are here the next time, I have been Elder Geek Sam. That's Teresa. This is Jeffrey. We're GrownAGeeks, and we are out of here.